Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. The show originally aired on the Premiere Networks on Sunday, June 10th, 2018. This is episode 1496. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by WordPress. Reach more customers when you build your business website on WordPress.com. Plans start at just $4 a month, and you can get 15% off any new plan purchase at WordPress.com/TechGuy. And by 23andMe. Now through Father's Day, get 30% off each 23andMe DNA kit. Go to 23andMe.com/twit today. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, you know, all that jazz. 8888. Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada outside that area. You could still call. Yes, absolutely. All you have to do is use Skype or something like that. That'll all work. 888-827-5536. Yet another Facebook outrage. It's kind of amazing. Facebook's taken over, I think, now for Uber in the never-ending headline department. Uber's calmed down. Everything's fine now at Uber. New CEO. They seem to have got their house in order. But Facebook, no. The Facebook outrage of the day. So for about 4 days in May, last month, about 14 million Facebook users. That's nothing. I mean, there's 1.5 billion, but 14 million Facebook users in all around the world had their default sharing settings for all new posts. You know, when you have a default that when you post, you can choose what you want it to be, public, private, whatever. It was all set to public. And because people, I think, just don't check, just say, well, my default is private. I use Facebook for private sharing. A lot of people posted publicly when they thought they were posting privately. According to CNN, after Facebook employees discovered the bug, they went back and changed the setting manually for all the posts. They went back through all those 14 million users' posts and fixed them all. May 18th to May 22nd. So if you saw a pop-up, I saw it this week when you logged into Facebook. Hey, you might want to check just to please review your posts. You might want to just check, make sure everything is private. If you think it's private, it is private and all that. And then you get a link to all the things you shared in those 4 days. Did you see that? It really underscores. I don't blame. I mean, look, stuff happens. I don't think Facebook. It's obviously nothing they did on purpose. It's just, a bug. But it underscores these bugs happen a lot at Facebook. It's not at all unusual. Even happened to the founder and CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. A bunch of his private posts were inadvertently made public. This was some years ago. So it just underscores, if you're going to use Facebook, and of late I've been thinking, maybe if you don't have to, you shouldn't. But if you're going to use Facebook, you should really just assume, even if you're using it in theory privately, you should just assume that, you shouldn't post anything there you wouldn't want your grandma to see, I guess is the rule. Unless your grandma is like a wild, crazy lady, but in which case use somebody else. But you know what I'm saying. You wouldn't want, if you wouldn't want somebody in your family or your boss or whatever to see it, don't put it there because it's kind of no guarantees. It could go. You're putting it on the internet, for crying out loud. You're putting it on the internet. So that means even if it's got settings that say it's private, there's always the potential. I'm increasingly of the opinion that many of the ills in our society today, you're going to think this is nuts when I say this, But many of the ills in today's society are a result of Twitter and to a lesser degree, Facebook. Twitter seems to make people psychotic. Have you noticed? Normal, mild-mannered, pleasant, friendly people start posting on Twitter, and at first it's nice, mild-mannered, normal stuff, and then slowly it degrades into angry, offensive posts. Normal people. I've seen, it's happened just recently. I have a good friend, very nice person, loves Twitter. She's always said, oh, Twitter is so useful to me. And she just went off the rails a couple of weeks ago. And I don't want to identify her, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but just completely out of character. And you see our president using it in insane ways. Just, it's not, in fact, the kind of bullying our president does on Twitter, if anybody else did it, they'd be banned. He's using Twitter and his vast powers. See, it's one thing if I say, oh, Canada, I hate you, you're rotten to the core, and your prime minister is a liar. It's one thing if I say it. It's another thing if the leader of the free world says it, and saying it on Twitter. See, I think even the president, it's bad. It's get off of it. All of us, just get off of it. It's bad. It's making us nuts. You could point to, and Twitter, of course, always does some amazing things Twitter has brought. They take some claim, as does Facebook, for the Arab Spring. You know, how did that work out, by the way? Has that worked out well? Egypt's, everything's going great, right? So, but they take credit for those uprisings some years ago, and that people organized on Twitter and Facebook. And in fact, I remember there was a guy, I think it was in Turkey, who named his kid Facebook because he was so thrilled with Facebook. Wonder if he's changed the kid's name yet. Somebody say in the chat room, this is true, same thing happens when people get behind the wheel of their motor vehicles. It's true. You're conducting a 3-ton hunk of metal at high speed down the road, and somehow we feel insulated and we do things that we probably aren't the best things to do. Road rage and all that doesn't affect everybody. It affects a small portion. Maybe that's the case on Twitter, that most people can use Twitter and not become psychopathic. I don't know. I myself have used Twitter in ways that I deeply regret shortly thereafter. Part of the problem with Twitter is there's no editing, and you can delete a tweet, but that doesn't mean it's really gone. Most of the third-party clients and so forth, it's still there. It lives on. Google for a while was indexing tweets on the Google search. That, thank goodness, they turned that off, because that was just spreading it far and wide. I feel that Twitter, there is something to be said for, I don't know, I just feel Twitter is not, it's a public health menace. Am I going too far? 8888 Ask Leo. Missing says, yeah, we might as well ban Little League games too then, because people go crazy. That's true. Parents, it's just maybe a natural thing of human beings that we could be perfectly nice, wonderful, generous, kind people, but put in certain situations, we just lose our heads. And to me, Twitter is something well known. It's a mob mentality. If you've ever been in, and I have, a mob, a large group of people, the mob has a mind of its own, and the members of the mob it becomes almost like a living cell where we're all, or a living organism, where we're all cells marching in the same direction, and we do things that probably any individual wouldn't do. And Twitter's very much like that, isn't it? It's just a mob. You're just part of them. You're part of a mob piling on. Anyway, I'll get, Sunday sermon and all. I'll get off my high horse. Although, here's another great one. You probably heard about Amazon's Recognition program, REKOG, Recognition. It's face recognition for the masses, and actually they've been selling it to law enforcement, but it turns out it's open to all, and for about $10, you can create your own face recognition engine that's surprisingly good. Some researchers has published this on Forbes, they just as a project, they just said, well, what if we signed up and tried it out? They got photos of their staff, and then they put them on the recognition engine, and they said, put a red square around people you recognize, like they're bad guys, green around people you don't, and it was 99% effective. Even if people's heads were turned, it's really good, and it's available to all. I don't know if that's a good use of technology either. 8888 Ask Leo. I know I'm supposed to be a cheerleader for technology. Rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. Technology's great. Everything's wonderful. And I think in general it is, but I guess if anything, I would say that it is partly our job as people who use technology to pay attention to how it can be misused and call it out when it happens, right? So that we get the benefits of technology and we kind of constrain the bad sides. Because there are, it could go either way. I'm just thinking. 8888 Ask Leo, what do you think? Let's take a little break. We're going to come back. Kim Schaffer's here. She's answering your calls. And we're going to get you on the air right after this. We'll get Kib's image there. Hi, Kib. Oh, don't go ahead. Have that coffee. Have that cup of coffee. Don't let me interrupt you. I try to jump in right when you're doing something. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. How are you?
I'm well.
Good.
Yeah, I slept through the night like a little baby. I slept through the night. It's a big deal for me.
It is for me too.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's another thing Twitter's done to us.
I have massive insomnia all the time.
I blame Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. What do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night?
I try to not look at my phone, actually.
And do you succeed?
Most of the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I know that is a slippery slope. If I look at it, I will be up all night. I'll probably be up all night anyway, but...
so you just stare at the ceiling and try to go back to sleep?
I try to close my eyes. I don't stare at the ceiling,
okay.
But I stare at my eyelids.
I think it's... but I think some of this... I'm going to still blame Twitter because... Some of it is our brains are racing more than they used to, right? We're thinking about stuff more.
That is my problem, is my brains. That's when I do all my thinking. That's when I have the anxiety about anything that's going on is in the middle of the night.
Yeah. But I think that has to do with this kind of fast-paced world we live in a little bit.
Yeah.
I see more people complaining about sleep issues than ever before. I don't know why.
I don't know. I think we have a lot to worry about.
Yeah. I've been rereading Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential. I got the audiobook. He reads it. It's so good. It's so good.
I was watching in between calls yesterday some of his videos, and I was just rolling. He's so funny.
So good.
Just.
It's interesting how this has affected people more than a lot of celebrity deaths. I think because he's not quite a celebrity. It's like people feel like he's their pal.
He's real. And that's how it was for Robin Williams with me. I think Robin Williams was the biggest celebrity death that I can.
Oh, that was shocking. I'm reading the biography, Michael Itzkoff's biography right now. It's very, very good. Mm. And we rewatched, because of it, we were watching Dead Poets Society last night, and I watched Good Morning Vietnam the other day.
I think that's one of the first movies I ever saw, in a theater.
Really?
Growing up, yeah. Probably put me in the radio.
Young. That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that's one of the...
Good point.
What gave me the radio bug was that just looked like so much fun.
Wow. You could blame Robin for that.
Yeah, thanks, Robin.
Yeah, thanks a lot, buddy. You didn't tell me what it was really going to be like. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number you will be ringing, the fabulous Kim Schaffer.
Good morning.
We were just talking about Anthony Bourdain, very sad. And then you mentioned Robin Williams. That was a couple of years ago, very sad. And I didn't realize this, but you said he got you into radio.
I think he was one of the Good Morning Vietnam was one of the inspirations. That movie that looked like so much fun. And then listening to local radio shows in the morning, the Zoo
I love
Cruise
radio.
And
stuff.
Yeah, that's I had the bug in 6th grade. I
that's
I wanted
neat.
to be in radio. Yep.
No one had told you about the horrors.
Nobody told me that it was not as glamorous as it looks.
I too wanted to be in radio from I think from college on. That was all I ever wanted to do, and thank goodness I'm getting to do it all these years. I'm reading the biography of Robin Williams right now. It's called Robin. And it's funny because the guy he plays in Good Morning Vietnam, Adrian Cronauer, was not like that.
He wasn't.
He was very he was very normal. He was the guy. He was like the other guys in that movie who were kind of square. And because once they hired Robin for the part, they decided to let him do his thing.
Right.
And it completely changed it.
And I think a lot of the movies that he's done, Aladdin, they said he did a lot of
Let him
just
go.
improv. They just let him go.
Let him go.
He was just that great. Are they making I thought I heard they were making a documentary on him.
That's one other reason that's come to mind. There's one coming out any day now. I don't know if it's I feel like it might be at Netflix, but I'll have to look it up.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely be watching that.
So, enough of that. Let's get to the work at hand. Let's do some radio.
Yeah. All right. Let's start. Jose in Ontario, California, not Canada, wants to make sure his laptop's secure when he's on Wi-Fi, and maybe you can help him.
I don't blame him. Good thinking.
He wants to know if his neighbors are seeing what he's doing.
The Robin Williams documentary is on HBO.
Oh, okay.
It's called Come Inside My Mind.
It's already out?
No, just the trailer.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what the date will be, but yeah, I'll look forward to that.
Okay. Yep, so will I.
Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Let's say hello to Jose in Ontario. Hello, Jose.
Hi, Leo. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Love your show.
Thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
And my concern is with my laptop. I just want to make sure that I'm secure and nobody is snooping in. So what do you suggest?
And you're talking about when you use it in a coffee shop or a hotel or somewhere where there's Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi. Is that what you're talking about?
Right. Yeah. Here at home, I guess I'm secure.
Well, the first thing I would do with any laptop, really I do it with anything, is turn on the encryption built into the laptop. On Mac, it's called File Vault. On Windows, it's called BitLocker. If you don't have, if you have Windows Home and you don't have BitLocker, sometimes the hard drive will have its own encryption. And the purpose of that is if you lose the laptop. So if you lose the laptop and the person can't log in, they can't use it, but then maybe they take the drive out and access it, and this prevents them from doing that. So hard drive encryption is very important. It doesn't help you, though, in that coffee shop scenario, because once you're logged in, the contents of obviously, or you wouldn't be able to use it, the contents of the hard drive is decrypted, and you can access it, and so could a bad guy. So you're right. You kind of want to secure your laptop. People talk about using a VPN, a virtual private network. That has some benefit because a VPN, you're connecting to a server somewhere out there. Usually, it could be at your house, but it more often is a company that provides VPN service. You're connecting to them, and everything you do between your laptop and their computers is encrypted. And then, of course, from their computers, it has to go out into the outside world normally. But that means anybody who's sniffing the traffic, sniffing the Wi-Fi going through the air, can't see what you're doing. That's true, though. Nowadays, when almost all websites are encrypted, if you use Facebook or Google, if you're buying something on Amazon, if you're visiting your bank, they're encrypted anyway. So all a bad guy could see is that you're on Amazon. He couldn't see what you're doing. There are other threats, though. I don't want to scare people, but there are other threats that you can encounter. Let's say you're in a coffee shop, you're sitting there, and there is a bad guy, and this is not your run-of-the-mill bad guy. This has to be a somewhat skilled bad guy, but he's sitting there, and most of the time, by the way, these guys are doing it for fun, not profit, but let's say he's sitting there, and he's got a device. There are many, but there's one that's widely available, inexpensive, easily purchased, called a Wi-Fi pineapple. He's got this Wi-Fi pineapple, and among other things, even if you're on a VPN, even if you're encrypted, visiting Amazon or Google or Facebook, he can see your laptop, and he can sometimes do things like, this is really creepy, figure out what your normally visited access points are, like your home or your office, and then impersonate it from the pineapple. Your laptop goes, oh, we're home, and joins it. And now he's done something called a man in the middle. He is in the middle of your conversation with the outside world. That's a little risky. So ideally what you would use is not just a VPN, but also a router. A device that's not, see, when you're on, you want to, what you'd like to do, this is really going the extra mile, but what you'd like to do is turn off Wi-Fi on your laptop, connect your laptop via an Ethernet cable to a router, and have the router be in the outside world. The router's dumb. It can't share any information about you, including what kind of operating system you're running or anything.
Okay.
So that, if you really want security, that's the way I'd go. And I always recommend a company called Tiny Hardware Firewall. And they make hardware routers for this purpose. They include with it, they bundle with it VPN service and Tor service, which anonymizes you. And those devices, they're 30, 40, 50 bucks. You own that, and then you pay for the VPN service. Really are the best way. Tiny Hardware Firewall. And this is one of them. I'll show you. This is their most, they sent me this the other day. This is their most recent one. This is on the front page of Tiny Hardware Firewall. They call this the Kadesh, K-D-E-S. They have strange names, THF. So what this is a router. It actually looks like a router. It's powered via USB, so you could actually power it from your laptop if you wanted to. Plug it into the USB port. It has 3 Ethernet ports, but it also has 2 Wi-Fi radios in it. And so what you do is you power this up, you connect to it. It's got a little web server in there, lets you connect to it, and you join the Wi-Fi network at the Starbucks or wherever you are. And that includes these tricky little things they do called captive portals, you know, the login screens you see that you have to either pay money or just sign in and say, you know, I agree to abide by your terms of service, that kind of thing. Those are called captive portals. This will handle that. This signs in. This is what's signed in. And then it's connected via, best way to connect via Ethernet, but you could do it via Wi-Fi as well, connect to this. And so this becomes a barrier to the outside world. It also, you don't have to use VPN. In fact, probably this is sufficient. But if you wanted to get extra security, you can turn on VPN. If you want to get anonymization, if you want privacy, or you want to appear to be coming from somewhere outside the U.S., you can use Tor on this as well. Both of those are built in, and so when you buy the hardware, you get the service. You also have to buy the VPN service from them. They have other packages. I carry these around. They have other devices you'll see on the website, including one that's let's see if I can find it here. One that's just a USB, looks like a thumb drive. This is a little more compact. People like this maybe a little bit better. It's called a micro router. You just put that in, and it does the same thing. You join the Wi-Fi, and then it goes into your computer hardwired. So you can, in fact, turn off Wi-Fi on your computer, which is the best thing to do, frankly. If Wi-Fi is not on your computer, you're pretty good. You're pretty good. So these are inexpensive hardware devices. This one, I think, they call this the Boudica. I think it's $30. And then their VPN service is about $90 a year.
Okay.
So if you really, like, the NSA should require everybody use this. Actually, they shouldn't let anything out of the house, but since they do, they should require this. So this is really hardcore. This would protect you against a lot of malicious bad guys, even very sophisticated attackers. Most of the time, that's not necessary. You know, honestly, a lot of the time, I just trust that I'm using encrypted websites, HTTPS websites, and presume that there's not somebody sitting there with a Wi-Fi pineapple attacking me. I think that's fairly safe. But if you really say, no, I want to lock it down, encrypt your laptop and buy one of these devices.
Okay.
Hey, thanks for the question.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Take care.
Bye now.
Bye. Yeah, you could use your cell phone hotspot. That's another good way to go. Actually, I should have mentioned that. You're right. I will mention that. Thank you, Scooter. This is, you know what this is most useful for? Like if you're on a cruise ship or you're in a hotel for a length of time, you just set this up. You leave it plugged in. Your laptop automatically joins this instead of the hotel, and it's really the much better way to do it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Line 1 is Greg in New Brunswick, Canada. Hello, Greg.
Hey, hello, Leo.
Hi.
This is my first time calling.
Oh, how exciting.
Yeah. I've got a problem with my Samsung PC. I've used it for like 4 years.
Yeah.
And recently, it is now being it will boot as normal, but then after a little while, then it goes into an automatic repair, and it just like it keeps looping. I've tried like restarting, same issue.
Yeah.
Tried going in the safe mode, same problem. Is there any way I can get out of it?
Well, it depends what's causing it, obviously. And in most cases, what this sounds like, and it's actually really common, the first thing to go on most laptops, most computers, is hard drives, especially if you have, and I suspect you do, a spinning drive in there. It's not a solid state drive, right?
Yeah, because it was trying to like scan, and it took way too long.
Yeah. So if you think about it, it's actually, I think, pretty obvious that the first thing to go in anything is the moving parts. You know, the solid state stuff like the chips, the memory, all of that stuff is pretty robust. If it survives the first few months, you know, if it's not defective out of the box, it's going to go forever, frankly. You know,
okay.
But things that are mechanical, those wear out. And sometimes that includes soldered on things like connectors, power connectors. Those also fail frequently on laptops. But the first thing to go on almost any computer is the hard drive. The problem with the way the hard drives go is they don't just die. It would be one thing if your computer just said, I can't boot, your hard drive's dead. That would be the easiest, and then you'd know what was wrong. You would hope you have a backup. But unfortunately, the way hard drives die, they don't. They tend to go slowly. And they start having problems. Often, the only symptom you have is a computer that's much slowed down because the operating system's trying to read the sectors. Eventually, it does, so it works. But it takes time. And I have to try 3 times to read every sector. That means you're going to get slower and slower and slower. So that's the first symptom. Maybe you even noticed that a year ago or so, that the computer seems slower for some reason. And then the next symptom is exactly what you're seeing, which is I've got bad sectors. I know I have bad sectors, and it can't correct them. So whenever you see this kind of thing happening, first thing to do is make sure you have a good backup. And that's an easy thing to do. You just go to the store and you get a little external USB drive of some kind. It could even be a thumb drive. Depends how much data you have. And just copy your data over to it. Don't use a backup program because then you'll get a blob you can't look into. Just literally drag it over and then check it. Make sure everything got over there. So once you've got everything on that external hard drive, you've got it backed up, you have a couple of choices. You can try to save the existing hard drive. And that would mean generally erasing everything, deleting the partitions, repartitioning, reformatting. And sometimes that's enough just to refresh the sectors and everything's fine. There are programs like my friend Steve Gibson's program SpinRite. It's hard to recommend nowadays because hard drives are so cheap, but SpinRite for $90 will do exactly that. It'll go through every sector on the drive, see if it can be read easily. If it can't, it will keep reading it. Try harder than the operating system, really. It just keeps going, come on, I know you're in there. Once it gets the data out, it moves it. And every hard drive comes with what's something called a bad sector table. No hard drive's perfect, even at the factory. So at the factory, they create a bad sector table, and they say, this is the part of the hard drive not to use. There's defects here. And that table tends to expand over time. The operating system can add to it. SpinRite can add to it. So if it finds a bad sector, it goes, well, I got the data off, I've moved it, and I'm going to mark that sector, don't use. Often that's sufficient to get you back to original performance. Maybe you're going to lose a little capacity, but probably not a lot, and you're going to be back to normal performance. If the drive, though, is shredded, is in worst case, really messed up, SpinRite either may not be able to recover it or, like it can't read those sectors, or half the drive is bad, and then, you have a shrunken drive. So sometimes, I think after 4 years, this isn't too much to ask. It might be worth, and it depends on how hard it is to do this on your Samsung, going to the store, buying an SSD to replace the existing drive. And if you can open up your computer, most laptops can, and pop in a new drive, that would be the easiest fix. Back up everything first. you're going to have to reinstall Windows. Are you on Windows 10?
Yes, the latest version. I tried resetting the PC. That didn't work.
Yeah, that's the first thing to try, and that was smart. And I think it didn't work because it's a physical problem with the hard drive. So
I did try the command prompt, and I got like a boot REC fix boot, and it said access denied.
Yeah, Windows has built into it check disk-like programs that are basically poor versions of SpinRite. SpinRite's a little more aggressive, but I think, because you can get an SSD, a replacement drive, for the same price as you can get SpinRite, unless this happens a lot or you have a lot of computers, a lot of hard drives. Steve, don't kill me here, but it's hard to recommend a $90 product when you get a hard drive for that price. So first thing to do is figure out how easy is it to fix that Samsung, and you might even just look on YouTube for that model and see if people have videos up. Generally, it's just removing some screws on the bottom, popping it open. The drive's sitting right there. You'll need to get a drive that matches it, but I wouldn't get a spinning drive this time. I'd get an SSD, and one of the nice things about the SSD is it's so much faster than a spinning drive, it'll feel like you got a new computer. But it is going to cost you, somewhere around $100.
Yeah. Could I try like an installation media?
Yeah. So that's the interim step, is just let's see if we could format the drive and reinstall. But make sure you fully format it. Do a thorough format, not a quick format, because you want to rewrite all those sectors. And if it's just that over time the sectors got weak, it's a magnetized medium, right? It's like a cassette tape. The head magnetizes the iron-based substrate on top of the disk, the platters, to be a 1 or a 0. It polarizes the iron molecules. And so maybe over time that got weak, the signal got weak, harder to read. Redoing it sometimes is sufficient. So if you don't want to spend any money, or you just want to fix it without doing anything, or at least try, that's the next thing to do. You've done the first thing, which is refresh, refresh the Windows install. Now back up your data, wipe the drive, and wipe it good. Do a thorough form. I would delete the partitions in a thorough format, and then restore and see if everything's all right. The nice thing about Windows 10, the reason I asked about Windows 10, is you don't have to get a serial number or anything. Once that Samsung was a Windows 10 machine, it will always be Windows 10. You can always just download Windows 10 and reinstall.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll have to get a new computer if all else fails.
Well, or a new hard drive, like I said.
Yeah.
Or if you're looking for an excuse, Dad, I need a new computer. Are you in college?
Yeah. It'll be my last year next year.
Oh, what bad timing. It'd be so nice to get through without having to get a new laptop, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to resuscitate this. It got you through the first 3 years.
Yep.
Might be able to resuscitate it. So there's the levels of things. You did the first one, which is reinstall Windows or refresh Windows. Next thing is to wipe the drive, reinstall Windows, reinstall your programs, copy your data back, make sure you back up before you do any of this. Final stage, if none of that improves it, is get a new hard drive. But you're on the right track. It's the hard drive.
Yeah.
Greg, nice to talk to you. Hey, thanks for calling.
You.
All the best.
Bye.
What are you studying?
I'm studying information technology, web and mobile.
Very good. I think you might find a career in there. What would you like to do?
I'll work somewhere in the greater Moncton area.
Good. Good luck to you. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our show today brought to you by WordPress. My website's brought to you by WordPress. My website. Almost everybody I know uses WordPress.com. It's just the easiest way to set up a website. Even people who could do it themselves, who know all the CSS and the HTML, when it comes time to just getting the site up and running and working and looking great, it's so much easier to use WordPress.com. WordPress is used by more websites than any other system. About 30% of the web runs on WordPress. So that should give you some confidence. This is a great platform. It's also good because it means a lot of people use it. There's a lot of WordPress experts. There's a lot of software you can use with WordPress. It's a great choice, and it is the easiest way to make your site. If you're a business and you don't have a great web page, your Facebook page does not count. You need to have your own website that you control. WordPress.com. If you're an individual just looking to make a blog, both my son and my daughter some weird generational thing, just recently said, I need to have a site. Henry said, I'm tired of posting pictures on Facebook. They get degraded. They're squeezed. I said, yes. WordPress.com, Henry. Same thing for my daughter, Abby. She said, I want to put my portfolio up, my resume. I'm getting ready to look for work. WordPress.com. You don't need to do any coding or design. They give you the tools you need to get the site up and running. And by the way, if you have any questions, a great customer support team that's there round the clock Monday through Friday, on weekends too. If you want to sell stuff, my son wants to sell some pictures. I said they have great e-commerce options ranging from a simple to an effective buy button to a full online store, and it's affordable. Plans start at $4 a month. Now, I run the business plan myself. It gives me access to more templates, more plugins, and more capabilities, social sharing, built-in SEO. However you go, though, WordPress.com is a great place to make your website. Get started right now with 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/techguy and create your website. You know what I loved? My daughter had you have hundreds of templates. She went through all the templates. She said, oh, yeah, I'd like the one 2017. I said, honey, Abby, that's the one I'm using. We're using the same template. But they don't look alike. No, they're each unique. WordPress.com/techguy. 15% off your brand new website. WordPress.com/techguy. That'd be a great Father's Day treat too. Set your dad up, right? Or set your son up. I have a friend who goes around to restaurants, and when he sees they don't have a website, he goes to WordPress, he sets up a website, and as he's leaving, he says, "I'm leaving. Here's a site. If you want to keep it, you have to pay for it, but I set it up for you." Now, that's awesome. WordPress.com/techguy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Let's go back to the phones. What do you say? Line 3. It's Mike in Los Angeles. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Leo. I have a series of travel questions. One is, what iPad should I get? And then in terms of downloading and streaming movies and having Wi-Fi anywhere, particularly hotspot.
Yeah, so they do make iPads with LTE capability. It costs $129 more than the Wi-Fi version of the same iPad. But if you want to have always, any Wi-Fi access point will work fine with any iPad.
All right, go ahead and order whenever you're ready. Hamburger Happy Meal with a Coke. Hamburger Happy Meal with a Coke? Yes. And then for the apple go-gurt?
Can you pick up a Big Mac and a large fry for me?
Apple slices. I'm sorry, Leo.
That's just mean. That's just mean. I want a Big Mac. Hey,
sorry.
No, that's fine. No. Hey, got a TCB, baby.
Yeah.
What countries are you going to?
Virgin Islands, and everything else is, in this case, in Mexico, United States, Virgin Islands, and Mexico.
So, all right. So, actually, I spent last Christmas in the British Virgin Islands. And, of course, remember the devastating hurricane. And at that time, I don't know if it's improved. I imagine it's improved a little bit. But at that time, there was not a lot of power, and there was very little Wi-Fi. However, the very first thing they got going was their cellular data network. So we were able to, when we got there, get a cellular-based Wi-Fi modem. And as we traveled around, we were on a sailboat. As we traveled around, I was impressed with everywhere we went. Now, this is the British Virgin Islands that got a little harder hit than the U.S. Virgin Islands. But still, it may be the same problem. But excellent cellular data. So it's up to you. It's about price. But if you want to not have to be reliant on a Wi-Fi signal everywhere, and if you're in a hotel and a coffee shop, I'm sure there'll be Wi-Fi there. We were not, because it was December. Hurricane had hit a few months earlier. There was no Wi-Fi anywhere, so I felt very fortunate.
Right, but like sometimes I may be at a place where I'm not in a hotel, so I kind of want
Then do get an iPad with LTE.
Anywhere.
Yeah, you definitely want the iPad with LTE. The next thing is it U.S. Virgin Islands or British Virgin Islands?
U.S.
Okay.
I think it's St. Croix.
St. Croix.
I think.
All right, so that's the key for this is going to be to figure out if you're in U.S. territory or not. If you are, then any U.S. carrier will be fine. But if you're not, then you're going to want to get something like a T-Mobile SIM, which will work internationally. St. Croix is in the U.S. Virgin Islands, so I'm pretty sure you can get... Who's your carrier in the U.S.?
AT&T.
Yeah, AT&T is actually very good down there, I'm told. So all you really need to do, and you can even do this at an AT&T store, is get an iPad with LTE built in. You'll have to pay separately for another line and data, and you might want to mention you're going to be in St. Croix, and so they can tell you, well, do you have to get extra money or extra international plan or not? I don't think you do because you're in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Then you're going to be great. You'll be able to get access as long as you're within range of a cell signal. You'll be able to get high-speed access everywhere. So AT&T is a good choice. Get an AT&T enabled iPad. The truth is, iPads will work with any carrier. They use a eSIM that can be configured to work with any carrier, but certainly AT&T. So that's going to be a great choice. Now the next choice is which iPad, and some people for traveling want the smallest possible package, and then the iPad Mini is still available. That's a little bit smaller. It's like a 7-inch iPad, 8-inch iPad. The traditional standard size iPad is 9.7 inches, and I personally, my first choice of iPad would be the iPad Pro 10.5 inches. That's a nice size. It's the same physical size as a 9.7-inch iPad. It's a newer one. It's very fast. If you think you're going to be using it when you get back to the States for any purpose, you might as well get the iPad Pro 10.5. That's the top of the line, and I think that when you add that and LTE, it's going to be pricey.
Okay, and then in terms of, so if I want to watch movies, like say part of my travel, I'm going to a conference, and I may be sitting in a large room with no Wi-Fi or 8,000 people on it at the same time. So that would not be a hotspot or something?
Yeah, you don't want a hotspot if there's a lot of people on it. But the good news with movies, and I do this, actually, I take my iPad Pro. Before I leave, if you have a Netflix account or an Amazon Prime Movies account, you can download movies for offline viewing. So it's not everything on Netflix, it's not everything on Amazon, but it's a very large selection. So the first thing I do before I travel is I go to Netflix and I say, well, there's a section, downloadable content. All the Netflix originals are downloadable. Download a couple of series, some movies. You're golden. You're golden. You can watch to your heart's content. There's TV shows. Same thing with Amazon Prime. So the ability to download is great. Now, that is also an indication that you might want to be looking at a somewhat larger iPad. Again, we're adding to the price here. They start at 64 gigabytes. And, movies about a gigabyte. A 2-hour movie's about a gigabyte. So 10 movies, easy. 10 gigabytes, you should be able to fit that onto a 64 gig iPad. But if you think you're going to store more than that, you might want to look at the 256 gig. They sell a 512 gig. I don't see any reason to get that. That's $1,000, and I don't think you gain much from it. But we're still spending a lot of money. I think by the time you have a 256 gig iPad with Wi-Fi and cellular, we're spending some money.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'll do that because I want the comfort of being able to be on Wi-Fi and watch a movie at any given time.
You're going to love that. I think for traveling, that's awesome. Really awesome. But I just priced it out. A space gray 10.5-inch iPad Pro, 256 gigs of storage, plus cellular access, $929. And as long as you're doing that, make sure you get a keyboard case, because then you can then that's your laptop. It's interesting that you mentioned this because that's what I brought to the Virgin Islands. I didn't bring a laptop. I didn't bring anything.
To cover it. Right.
Yeah, a case laptop. I like the Logitech Slim keyboard combo. That's what I carry. But it's a nice keyboard. Then it's a computer. That's all I brought to the Virgin Islands last Christmas, and it was fine. It was more than enough. I could do photos. I could do all sorts of stuff.
Okay, I will do that and just eat the cost.
What's the conference? Is it a big Bitcoin conference? What are you going down there for?
Well, I'm going to in Minneapolis. It's the large conference. It's actually an education conference where educators across the United States are coming together to discuss policy on a national level.
Fascinating. Fascinating.
Yeah, so,
now, I'm an advocate of Chromebooks in education as opposed to the expensive proprietary iPad. But I think if you're an educator, that's one of the decisions you'll be making. It's probably good to have experience with both.
Yeah, and that's the way, in the school sites they have different preferred vendors in a sense. But I'm going to be more like Congress. Again, I'm there to vote on various educational issues.
Fantastic. Are you an educator?
And
obviously you are, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not a teacher. I'm actually a school social worker.
Nice.
And I won't go into all the issues, but for example, they've been having the shootings on various campuses.
Oh, man. I bet there's a lot of work for that. Hey, I have to run. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. That's awesome. And have a great conference. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off on there. You still there? Oh, I guess he got his burger. Okay. Now, the question, somebody was saying, is he working there or is he ordering? I think he was ordering. Yeah, I think he was ordering. That was awesome.
Your sense of humor is incredible, though. You just rolled right off.
What the heck? What are you going to do, right? Hey, sir, I'm working here. Stop ordering burgers. That coffee's good. There was a spreadsheet the U.S., I think it was the Air Force, put out. Let me see if I can find it. This is fascinating. They did studies on coffee. And the time to affect you. Oh, I wish I could find this. Yeah, because they wanted, for their pilots to know when the optimum. So it turns out 20 minutes before. Here it is. Is this it? No. Gosh, where did I see that? It was all about caffeine. It was hysterical. They'd done a lot of research for soldiers. And yeah, here it is. Are you imbibing enough caffeine for peak performance? Military researchers have the answer. We'll pull this up here. It's the Army, not the Air Force. So, in a study published Monday in the Journal of Sleep Research, Department of Defense researcher Jacques Reifman outlined how a newly created algorithm can determine the best dosage of caffeine to take at the right time. So they did psychomotor vigilant tests to figure out the best caffeine strategy. So we found that by using our algorithm, which determines when and how much caffeine a subject can consume, we can improve alertness by up to 64% with the same amount of coffee. Alternately, a subject could reduce caffeine consumption by up to 65% and still achieve equivalent performances in alertness. The Army is using the new algorithm with soldiers in training and plans to license it. Oh, I thought you could download the spreadsheets. Shoot. I want the spreadsheets. I want to know. Let's see if they at least summarize. Takes 20 minutes, apparently, for the coffee to hit you. Validated mathematical model which predicts the effect of sleep loss and caffeine on psychomotor vigilance task performance, and combined it with a computationally efficient optimization algorithm to determine when and how much caffeine to consume to safely maximize alertness during sleep loss.
That sounds like someone's dissertation.
sounds like where taxpayers paid for a. Wow.
Throw that stone.
I think we paid for it. I think we ought to have this. Where's the info? Well, I want the info. The taxpayers paid for it. We ought to get it. Why are they keeping it to themselves?
Well, they weren't going to license it.
They don't want to license it. Well, all right. Okay. As long as they give the money back to us taxpayers. Isn't that funny? Now, maybe it wasn't this article, but I thought I saw that the best way, if you're going to take a short nap, drink a cup of coffee right before it, because it won't hit you for 20 minutes. And then so the coffee will wake you up. Obviously, they're not drinking coffee. They're taking caffeine supplements or something. But
I don't know. I keep a healthy level all day long.
Mm-hmm.
For coffee.
I think that's the way to do it. Is just to, titrate it so that you have it all day long. I have to stop at before too long because I won't sleep. But well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Oh, yeah, time to talk computers and the internet and home theater and digital photography and smartphones and smart watches and all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number if you want to have a high-tech conversation. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, don't worry. You can still call. Just use Skype or something like that. It won't cost you anything because it's a toll-free number in the U.S. 8888 Ask Leo. We have a website. I should mention this more often. It's techguylabs.com. And it's the place where we stick everything we talk about, links and so forth, audio and video from the shows after the fact. Even your comments. If you have a comment or a suggestion, you can go there. It's techguylabs.com. It's free. No sign up required or anything. It's all there. There's a good search engine. So if you hear something on the show and you're trying to figure out what did Leo say, what did he recommend, where's that thing that he talked about, that's all there. techguylabs.com. Thanks to James DeRuvo, who's writing this all down. Even this, he's writing it all down and then puts it up on the site. And then Josh Windish here at our studio will take it, add the audio, the video, and by the end of the day, you have a pretty nice site. All 1,496 shows are up there. Back to the phones we go, and line 4 is Dale in Santa Monica. Hello, Dale.
Hi. So I've got a question about, I was using my Mac and an iPhone, and it was very easy to handle my music. My iPhone started getting funky, so I switched to a Moto G5.
Mm-hmm.
And I loaded Media Monkey, which you recommended before.
Nice.
I don't know how to get the music from my computer to the phone.
Yeah, because, of course, the iPhone and everything Apple makes assumes that you're only using Apple products. And iTunes, same thing. You want to use iTunes with an Android device? What are you, insane? Fortunately, there is a solution. It's called Doubletwist. It's a free tool that will let you synchronize your Android phone with your iTunes playlist. It'll even player, and it'll even copy playlists over and all of that.
Ooh.
So I believe it's free, although I see a store on their site now. So Doubletwist. Oh yeah, it's $9 for Doubletwist Pro. Okay. It's not expensive.
Well, that's an easy solution.
Yeah, and it's what I use on Android. There may, you can by hand copy songs, music from your music library onto the phone. You can connect that phone to your Mac. Apple doesn't support Android natively, but there's a Android file transfer tool. You put your phone in mass transit protocol or mass transfer protocol, MTP, and it'll look like a hard drive to the Mac, and then you can just copy stuff from your iTunes music folder into that phone. It's not synchronization, but if you only want to do this once, and there's just I just got to get all the Beatles albums on my phone or whatever it is, that's another easy way to do it. You can do that right now.
Right. Okay, great.
All right, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Okay.
On we go, line 2, Terry, Whittier, California. Hi, Terry.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
To you. Okay, so don't laugh, as everyone does when I bring up this topic.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to get it out of my system before you brought it up.
Okay, great. In fact, okay, so my question is, what's your opinion on the BlackBerry Key 2 that was...
I'm not going to laugh at you for that. I love the BlackBerries.
Well, that's all I've owned. Okay, granted, I have an iPad, an iPad that, I am familiar on how to use it.
But you want a physical keyboard, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason you would get a BlackBerry these days. I'm a little worried about the company BlackBerry. They've struggled a little bit. The BlackBerry was a dominant smartphone. It was the smartphone. It was the last smartphone I used before Apple came out with their iPhone. I loved my BlackBerry Pearl. In fact, I had the BlackBerry all the way back to where it was just a pager with a keyboard. I thought that was the greatest thing ever invented.
Yep, me too.
Yep. And if you're still a fan of the BlackBerry keyboard, then I think that's fine. Now, BlackBerry's kind of stopped making phones. They have a different business now. I don't know if it was a brilliant move or just a lucky move, but they bought an operating system called QNX that is now widely used in cars. So they actually are fiscally solvent. But I don't think they make their phones anymore. I think they're being made by TCL, a Chinese company.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
However, it's still the BlackBerry design. And actually, the Key 2 looks pretty darn nice. It has the traditional BlackBerry keyboard. It looks like a very nice screen. I mean, I haven't played with it. I don't think anybody has. I don't think it's out yet.
It's not. June 7th was their official announcement.
Right. So now we've seen pictures of it. It does look like that traditional BlackBerry kind of domed keyboard. So if you really liked that, I think it should make you happy. It's nice that they are updating it because Android moves fast. They use Android now, not the BlackBerry operating system.
Right.
And Android moves fast, and so in order to compete in the Android world, they need to have the latest operating systems, and they seem to. The only question I would always, by the way, USB-C charging, which is wonderful. That's not the micro USB you're used to. It's the more modern USB-C. What's nice about that is that's kind of become the standard on Android phones, so there'll be a lot of these chargers floating around. It should be an easy thing to get to. I'm not sure. Let's see. It does have a headphone jack, which is a very good thing. TCL's saying more than a day of battery life. And it's running Android 8.1, the most current version of Android, which is very good news. What you're also looking for in any Android device is regular security updates. Google puts out a monthly security update, kind of like Microsoft does now. And you want to make sure. So when you go to look at that phone in the store, just look in the system settings and see how recent the last security update is. It should be June by the time you look in the store. It should be the June update. So I'm going to expect that they're going to keep that up to date. TCL says we're going to do security patches on a monthly basis. So that's really important now. I'm just looking at the press release on this. $649. You could pre-order it later this month. Becomes available globally in July. I think if you like a physical keyboard, this is your last best choice. I got the Passport. I was very impressed. I'm not against BlackBerry at all, especially now that they're Android. The BlackBerry operating system was, I think, getting a little long in the tooth. But now that they're doing Android, they do put BlackBerry apps on there. This one has a fingerprint sensor. Interestingly enough, it's on the space bar, which I think is actually clever. I think in many ways is, you know what? You talked me into it. I'm going to buy one.
Oh, I have to tell you, when I went to go look at the Key 1 at first, I went to Best Buy, and the first thing the guy told me was, the first thing the guy said was, "Oh my God, this is our #1 return." I thought, oh boy.
Well, you can always return it. That's good news. What are you using today? I'm
using the BlackBerry. I'm using the 90. I'm just on the 9630. I think.
Yeah. I had that one also. It's hard for me. I like a physical keyboard. I really do. I have a hard time typing on the on-screen keyboards on my iPhone and Android phone. I'm just not accurate. I find these newer BlackBerry keyboards not much better, but they're a little bit better. I wish they were more like the old one.
Right.
But it's got it looks like a nice textured back. It's a good looking phone. 4.5-inch LCD display, so it's a little smaller than
than the one.
Yeah, but probably big enough, right? So no, I would not hesitate in recommending it. But of course nobody has one, so I don't know if there's problems. But I think TCL is a good company. They make very good TVs. I think they're a good manufacturer. I think it's probably a good choice for BlackBerry to go with them. So get it.
Okay.
And then call me and let me know.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. I give you the Leo Laporte seal of approval. See, sometimes people think I'm going to be a snob about this. Oh, no, you need the Samsung Galaxy S9 or the iPhone 10. No, not at all. You need the phone that's right for you. And if you want a physical keyboard, I see no reason not to go with the BlackBerry. I don't even know if there are any other choices nowadays. For a while, there was one, was it LG? Somebody was making a physical keyboard, but I bet you that's even stopped. You might have to go with it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're going to take a little break, come back with more of your calls. 8888 Ask Leo. Right after this. Our show today brought to you by my genes. Not my blue genes, my genetic genes, my chromosomes. The 23 pairs of chromosomes. One pair from my mother, one pair from my father. That make me, make you. 23andMe is amazing. And what a great Father's Day gift. A way of acknowledging that you are who you are thanks to your father's contribution. This Father's Day, get to the heart of what makes Dad unique with a DNA kit from 23andMe. I did this when they first started a few years ago, and it's very simple. There's no blood draw. It's very easy. You it's spit into a little vial. That saliva is all they need to get your DNA. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks to analyze it. Then they produce more than 75 detailed reports online that tell you everything. Genetic ancestry, inherited traits. You can even learn about health and wellness. The ancestry stuff is fun. I think Dad will love this because you find out where your people came from, how much Neanderthal you have. I have a little competition going. My wife has more Neanderthal than me. No, I think actually Lisa has less. I have more than my sister. Anyway, I'm 4% Neanderthal. 4%. It's fun. You also learn things like, are your earlobes detached, your chin cleft? What kind of things can they tell from your DNA? And then, much more importantly, the health and wellness stuff tells you, you maybe ought to watch your caffeine consumption, things like that. Really fascinating. It's fun. It's the book of you. There's no more of a fascinating book. And you could give this to your dad for Father's Day at 30% off. And if you haven't done it yourself, you definitely should both do it. And you can get the 30% off both kits now through June 17th. It includes free gift wrap. 23andme.com/twit. Last Christmas, I gave it to my mom and my sister. By the way, I'm glad to tell you, my mom is actually my mom, according to 23andMe. We share 49.9% of our chromosomes. That's pretty good. But I guess that means my dad will be 50.1%, right? He'd be a little. I'll find out because I'm sending it to him for Father's Day. 23andme.com/twit. What a great gift. And you get 30%. You don't have to tell Dad this. You get 30% off each kit when you buy right now through June 17th. 23andme.com/twit. What a great gift. And we thank 23andMe, by the way, for supporting the Tech Guy podcast. Back to the show we go. Chris Marquardt.
Hello.
Hey,
how are
Chris. You? I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine.
Good. What's up? I loved those pictures you sent me. That guy. Wow.
Well, I told you, 50 millimeters is all you need.
It's gonna be. I'm almost gone a whole month.
That's gonna change your life.
Oh boy. I've been carrying it around just to practice, and I'm pretty quick with it. I can, I like it. I love the image. It's a great camera. It's great images. Although I noticed this even with his pictures, like of landscape and stuff. It feels like you're missing, there's like you're only seeing 50 millimeters of it.
Well, he had several pictures where he stitched a couple of
panos.
those.
He did panos.
He did a few panos.
Is that allowed? Am I allowed to do that?
Of course you are.
Oh,
of course you are. You'll probably be the pano master the moment you return.
You know, truthfully, the phone does great panos. Usually, all I need.
I always sneak a few of those in between my DSLR shots, and no one
knows
is any wiser. Yeah.
Yep. So
it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
When are you leaving?
Oh, not till September. Well, late August. August 30th.
Okay, so you have plenty of time to ponder this.
I'm practicing. No, I'm pretty dedicated, and as I said, Lisa says, "Good, I'll bring the A9." So, I guess if it was a real flop, I could borrow the A9, but I'm not going to. I'm going to use a 50.
So you have a bit of a fallback, and I'm going to hold you to it in public. So
I was thinking of bringing,
as if that mattered.
Oh, it matters. I was thinking of bringing one of those Pentax Ricoh waterproof point and shoots.
Oh, cool!
Because we will be getting wet a little bit. So
yeah,
I'd rather bring that to the beach.
Little action kind of thing.
Is that all right to have that too?
Of course it is. We have plenty of cameras anyway.
I know. But
how many smartphones are you gonna have with you?
Yeah, that's true. I'll have 2 smartphones. So,
and each of those has at least 2 cameras built in, probably 4.
But no, I want to do this though. I want to do it as an exercise. She always takes better pictures than I do anyway, so it's not.
I'd be really proud of you if you did that.
All right, I want you to be proud of me, Chris.
See, there you go.
I want to earn my way to Svalbard with you. I want to earn it. All right. So we will talk in 10.
Will do.
All right. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I held a workshop over the weekend about what to place in the picture where.
Okay. What to place in the picture where. Coming up. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 88, you better pot that down now. 8888. Ask Leo, the phone number. I haven't mentioned, you probably noticed, E3, the big gaming conference, is kicking into gear this week. Already, we've had a couple of press conferences. Actually, this is, of all the trade shows, this is the one where press conferences are it. The big press conferences from Sony, from PlayStation 3, from Microsoft on the Xbox, Nintendo, Bethesda, Electronic Arts, Ubisoft. E3, if you're not a gamer, you probably never heard of it. It used to be a little bit about hardware and stuff. It has become really the time of the year when companies announce their next game. It's all about games, game trailers, often games that won't be out for 6 months or a year. It's all about that. But there was one announcement that I think is kind of interesting. Electronic Arts, which is, I think, the biggest independent gaming company. You barely could call them independent. They're so huge out there. They do a lot of the A-list games for all the platforms, Xbox, PlayStation, Windows. They announced something that's not out yet, that will be out later, that is possibly going to change the gaming world. They're calling it cloud gaming. And they say that you can play high-end A-list video games on any device that will play back Netflix. I mean, that could be a cheap Amazon Fire Stick. That could be a lot of things, right? And the way they're going to do this, by the way, they're not alone. I think other companies, Sony's pretty much doing the same thing. There have been companies that have come and gone. On Live was going to do this. But the technology is getting better. Bandwidth is getting faster. The idea is that the game is not being played on your little cheesy $20 Fire Stick. It's being played on Electronic Arts servers, big, powerful computers with graphics cards and everything, and then streamed, like Netflix streams a movie, streamed down to you. You'll have a controller. You'll make a change. It will go up to the server. The server will register it in microseconds. So it'll be almost exactly as if you're playing the game locally, but you'll be playing it, in effect, on a remote computer system, and they're streaming it. I think this is interesting, and it may mean the end of video game consoles or even PC gaming as we know it, because if you can play a quality game, better really looking than you would play at home unless you have a very high-end rig, and it streams well and it costs less, this might be the future. We've heard, we've seen this before. OnLive launched in 2010 and went bankrupt only a few years later, but maybe it was too early. Sony has this PlayStation Now streaming service. They launched in 2014. It's pretty good. Microsoft is apparently considering doing the same thing. They haven't announced it yet. But if Electronic Arts, if you paid a subscription fee, $20 a month, something like that, it won't be as inexpensive as Netflix, but something like that, to play unlimited amounts of games, and you don't need expensive hardware, this could be a big revolution. So that was the one thing that has been announced so far at E3 that I think might be a game changer. So, if I could coin a phrase, cloud gaming is coming. Actually, it has a larger impact because if you can, games, incidentally, are the most challenging thing you can do on a PC these days. Right up there with launching rocket ships and editing 360-degree video. You need a high-end PC with a very powerful graphics card to play these modern games at the speed and resolution that you want. It's one of the things that really drives technology forward. It would be very interesting, and it kind of might be a big change if all of a sudden you don't need that the high-end power is not yours, but you're in effect renting it from a server farm somewhere else. And it wouldn't just change gaming, because of course, if you can do it with gaming, you can do it with almost anything. Maybe it might be the future of computing. Certainly, we've been watching with interest as desktop computing has started to fade away. Laptop computing replaced it, but now it's being replaced by mobile computing. Phones, pads, tablets. Even Apple seems to be less and less interested in making Macintosh computers. Windows is still around, I think more for business use than anything else. Home computers, I think the idea of having a computer in your home, that may be going away. That may be going the way of the buggy whip and the carriage. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, especially because computing's moving out to the edge. This is how they talk about it these days. They say it's no longer a centralized thing, a computer in your desktop in your office. It's spreading out so that you have computers everywhere, in cameras, in doorbells, in microwave ovens, little computers everywhere. They talk to one another, and if they can talk to a powerful server at the other end, that may be the solution. That may give these little computers as much power or more power than your desktop computer. After all, isn't that what Amazon's Echo is doing? Very interesting stuff. We're going to take a little break. Coming up, our photo guy, Chris Marquardt, is here with some photo tips, and we will continue our assignment. We're looking for pictures, but I'll let Chris tell you all about that next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. And he has a much higher end rig than anybody else would need. Actually, it's gamers and Bitcoin. Yeah, I think that if this really works, and they've been trying to do this for 10 years, but if EA is pitching at this point, they must feel like, well, people, I think a lot of it has to do with people have enough bandwidth now. They're using essentially the same technology Netflix is using. That's why they compare it to Netflix. The key is that you got to get latency way down. But if you can get latency down, and I guess that's what they're working on, you certainly can have a powerful server. That was actually what killed OnLive. Was they had all these servers that were only being used 10 or 20 or 30% of the time. It was so that was one of the things they've had to solve to make this work, because OnLive, the business model was just not untenable. They couldn't do it. They couldn't have, you have to have enough servers to serve the peak crowd. but most of the time those servers are just sitting there. Yeah, and I imagine they're getting closer to you. Like they're putting, like I think they're probably figuring Comcast will have the servers, or Rogers, or whoever your ISP is. The servers will be there, which minimizes latency.
I think they do it, but I can't judge the milliseconds that professional gamers need.
Well, and I think if you're that serious, you probably still have a rig. But it's thousands of dollars. It's a non-trivial expense. Was it Sony? I think it was Sony who said this probably is the last generation of consoles. I mean,
The PS4's got lots of room left in it.
oh yeah, so does the Xbox One. I really love the Xbox One, but yeah. So yeah, I think it's really, frankly, more interesting not in gaming, but in terms of putting computing, edge computing, pushing computing out to the edge. And that's what Microsoft clearly thinks. They don't think people are going to buy Windows and PCs. They want to sell cloud services. That's the future for them, right? That's where all their revenue is going to be. And frankly, Apple's even starting to think that. I think that's what you're going to end up seeing. I bet, I wouldn't be surprised if they stopped selling Macs. They just put Mac OS on a server and let you run it from an iPad. What do you think, Chris?
About what?
I don't know. I don't know.
About servers. The time when I was in charge of a data center and run servers are long gone.
Yeah.
Not doing that anymore.
Used to work at HP.
I use other people's servers now, which is called the cloud.
The cloud. Actually, that's another thing driving technology is photo editing.
Oh, definitely. There's lots of AI in that.
But you see what how the pushback against Lightroom CC. Are you using Classic still, or did you?
I'm a Classic CC. Yeah. I'm that generation. We want our data.
Yeah.
We want to keep be able to touch the hard drive with.
But that's not the future, is it? I mean,
no, it's not.
And I have to say, as I travel around, the idea that I could put my photos on the computer, but then they're going to get replicated to the cloud. I ended up buying. I don't know, what do they give you free, a terabyte? I ended up buying 2 more, I think.
Oh, I don't mind the cloud thing as long as I have a local copy. That's the thing. I still have slight trust issues because I used to run servers. You know the truth. I know the truth.
Yeah.
So I'm just wary
Think
that
of the average
all the backups
person.
are good.
We get calls all the time of people
who
haven't backed up anything.
I know.
So does he have a fast photo? I think he does. All right. Suddenly I'm sounding like Henry Kissinger. Chris Marquardt, professional photographer, educator, all-around nice guy, podcaster. Got to keep that in there, too. He joins us every week to help us get better pictures, whatever gear we're using. Hi, Chris.
Podcaster almost as long as you've done it.
Yeah, that's how Chris and I met at the first Podcast Expo.
We go back 13 years.
You interviewed me with a Nokia. Remember this Nokia phone that it was a flip phone, but it had a HD camcorder in it?
Not just that, you could edit on the phone and publish a video podcast straight from the phone. That was revolutionary. That was before any iPhones were on the market, and it was just a wonderful toy.
Yeah, you came up with this thing, and it looked like a camcorder. It looked like a flip camera, and then you open it up, it was your phone. Yeah. That was fun. Those were the days, Chris. We've been around a long time.
And now it's just easy. You can do this on every smartphone. There's software. You don't even have to have the thing made to do it. It just has all the cameras and all the memory and all the compute power and everything on them. So, yeah. And it's just like 13 years ago. Wow.
Times change. At Apple's WWDC event this week, they showed some new features they're going to put in photos. That's a good example of, well, maybe not. Apple says it's not from the server. Google does it from the server. But it's an example of the server doing work for you, like face recognition, that makes your photo collection much more valuable.
Yeah, but I think Apple's trying to move as much of that as they can onto the phone.
Yeah.
So the phone is trying to do all the recognition of things in the picture. So if you search for cats or buildings or bridges, that it'll do this on the phone, the recognition. But I'm watching closely what happens in that field.
It's very interesting. Yeah.
But the tech is one side. I've just finished holding a weekend workshop in front of a bunch of nice people, all very tech inclined. There's you and I know these people. We are these people. So we are very focused on the technology. But what that means is that there are other things like how to put a picture together, how to make sure you know what goes in a picture and how it goes in a picture. Because that's what's important, right? The tech today will do pretty much everything for you, but it will not make the decision of what you put in a picture and how you place it in a photo.
So important to remember. I mean, all of this technology, all of this technique is really there to serve the art.
Yeah, it is. And you know how some pictures feel good and you know that they are good and other people say, wow, that's a cool picture, but you don't really know why that is. So that's what we tried over the weekend, to kind of put a lot of that from the tummy, from the belly into the head, from trying to understand what happens when a photo works and why a photo works. And I think the first thing you have to do is you have to make a decision what goes in the photo. That's kind of the easy one because you want to shoot a picture of something. So that's the thing that's the picture is about. But then there are also, of course, other questions like, where do I put that in the photo? You could keep it bang in the middle, or you could do what we call the rule of thirds and move it to the side a bit. But what does that do to the recipient? And when you go more wide angle, will that make it more easy or more difficult?
Really?
Because you know what happens.
Yeah.
Well, you know what happens when you go wide angle? You have more stuff in the picture, so it gets more difficult to determine what is important in the photo. So these are all kind of important questions, and we talked about these. So let me try to break a few things down. First of all, what goes in the photo? Photos tend to be more interesting if there is living things in the photo. I mean, that's a simple thing. Try it out. Take a picture of a thing, and then take a picture of your pet or even another person. Those things are always more interesting. Second thing is, how do you space things in a photo? Think of several things in your photo that you want to have in the picture, and then think of how you can have them relate to each other in a photo. You can have them side by side, which means there are two separate things in the photo, or you can have them overlap. And when you overlap them, they kind of turn into a one thing. A good example there would be a group shot. Just imagine you're taking a picture of a group of people on a family function or your kid's soccer team. And if they are all like individuals on the photo, if they don't touch visually on the photo, then there will be just a bunch of individual people. But if you have them overlap, if you place them like behind each other slightly so they overlap, you will end up with like one group as opposed to a bunch of individuals. So spacing between things is a really key concept in how the thing will be perceived. So you could also, similarity, by the way, is another thing that is very interesting in group shots. If you have several things in the photo that are similar, then they will be perceived as a group, even if they do not overlap. With your kid's soccer team, that could be the jersey they're wearing. Like they are all very similar because they have a similar thing that they're wearing, a similar uniform or something, and that will make the recipient, the viewer, perceive that as being a group instead of individuals, and then it's not as important if you place them behind each other or next to each other or overlapping. So these are all kind of things that I tend to think about when I take a photo, and the moment you make that a bit more of a conscious decision, your photography will change. Another thing is lines and angles in photos. How do you place the camera? Do you keep it straight? Do you keep it at an angle? Very often I will slightly skew the camera. I will accidentally get it at an angle, and then I have like water running out of the photo at half a degree. Lines and angles, if I want a tidy photo, I try to keep them straight. It's a pretty simple thing. Straight lines are easier to handle than, for the recipient again, are easier to handle and make a tidier photo than if they're skewed. If you have skewed photos with skewed lines, then they're might be more tension in the photo. Now, I'm not saying tension is a good or a bad thing in a photo, but you can have pictures with more tension, and that will do something to the recipient, or you can have pictures that are more relaxed with more relief. Then that will have a different. Well, it will convey a different feeling to the recipient.
I love the idea of adding tension to a photo. Just by what you put in it.
Well, here's an interesting way to play with the tension in a photo. Imagine you have something in the photo that moves, like let's say a bicycle, and you can have that move into the frame, or you can have it move out of the frame. So if it's just almost leaving the frame, if it's on the side of the photo and it's close to leaving the frame, that will add a lot of tension, because if you look at that photo, it won't. You don't really know what's behind that edge of the frame. So it could be, I don't know, a wall that the bicycle will run into in a minute. It's very mysterious, and that adds tension, and that could be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other hand, a picture with a lot of tension, I wouldn't probably not use that everywhere. Like, let's say in a doctor's waiting room or something, they might have a
no tension
picture
there.
That is a bit
you need
more
calm lakes,
a bit calmer, calm lakes, nature, that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can play with that.
Chris, our assignment is hand. Take a picture illustrating the word or concept hand, upload it to the Tech Guy group on Flickr, and we got a week or two more before we review it.
A couple weeks, yeah.
Chris Marquardt, you'll find his work at discoverthetopfloor.com, and check out his workshops where you can learn all
I just put up 2 new workshops for next year, for 2019.
What are your new workshops?
In February, up to northern Norway, Lofoten, 2 tours of 1 week each on a ship. Down it's up in the Arctic, but just up in the Arctic, just above the Arctic Circle. And October 2019,
Romania.
we'll go to Romania, to Transylvania.
Oh my gosh.
Transylvania, Bucharest, old castles, the Bran Castle, that's the one that's kind of associated with Dracula. Interesting, wonderful people there live a very simple life, almost like the Amish. So it's a very beautiful landscape there.
We haven't planned anything for next year, so I am open.
I'm about to put 4 more tours online over the next couple of weeks.
Why are you going to Norway in the winter?
Because that's the Northern Lights season.
Oh. All right, I'm going to show these to Lisa and see.
The ship is. We only have 12 guests on board, and the ship has very cozy 2-bed cabins with ensuite bathrooms.
Yeah, but she might like Romania. That sounds interesting too.
I'm looking forward to that one. That part, I haven't been there. I need to go there, and a friend of mine has done that before, so he has the tour all planned out, and this is going to be exciting. Fall colors in Romania.
Yeah. Well, I'll show these both to Lisa, because I really want to do one with you.
There will be 4 more tours over the next few weeks, so
Can you tell us where? Or is it a secret?
Well, there will be the Czech Republic with Prague.
I love Prague.
And the Bohemian castles. So
we've done that one. That's fun.
It is absolute fun. That's really fun. Greenland.
Oh, I've always wanted to do Greenland.
This time. Not on a ship this time. We'll be in Tasiilaq and then take speedboats up and down the coast for a few days to get near the icebergs and.
Man, I got to show these to Lisa. We'll do one of these. I have to. The Romania looks fantastic.
That will be beautiful.
Yeah. Wow.
Bears as well.
Bears, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. And you're doing 2 different workshops in the fantastic fjords.
Those will be the same, but those are most likely going pretty quickly.
It's because
Northern Lights tours.
Such a limited number of people, huh?
It's 12 people on the ship, and the price is pretty decent too. So we expect those to go fast. That's why we put 2 up.
You have to charge more.
Well, this time, no, I'm happy that a lot of more people will get an opportunity to do this.
So cool.
I charge more for Romania then.
You're doing great, Chris. I'm so happy for you. So great.
So it's what I want to do.
Yeah,
so as long as I find people that come with me, I'll keep doing these things.
I'm sure you will. Do you get a lot of return clients?
Yeah, definitely.
I bet. Yeah, once people do it, they go, I'm going to do this again.
There's, on some of the tours, over half of people come back.
All right, I'm going to talk to Lisa tonight. Thanks, Chris.
See you. Take care.
Bye-bye. Whoa, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888. Ask Leo. Let's get some calls here. You poor people have been waiting online for so long. Brian in Indio, California. Thank you for your patience. Leo Laporte.
Hi, Leo. How you doing?
I'm good. What can I do for you, Brian?
I heard something about Amazon coming out with a new product supposed to be released at the end of the month. The Amazon Fire TV Cube.
Yeah, I ordered it. And we should get it in the next week or so. This is a very interesting product. Amazon has really come on strong with their Fire TV. At first, it was sort of like, it's a competitive field. I'm going to get a Roku. But you see more and more people using Fire TV. Of course, part of it is because it's an inexpensive device that can easily be modified to watch pirate TV. And so I think a lot of Fire Sticks are sold, modified. But I'm interested in the Cube because it's going to have Echo built in. So it'll be a hands-free device. It supports 4K UHD, which is important for me. I have 4K TV. You can talk to it. And then the really interesting thing is it has infrared. This is an older technology, but still a lot of home theater devices, your receivers and your boxes, your TiVo and so forth might be controlled by infrared. If you've got a remote and you have to aim it, that's an infrared remote. So the Fire TV Cube has infrared. It's a cube, but it's coming out of all four sides. There's a lot of infrared bouncing off and everything. And the idea is you might put that in your cabinet with all your TV devices, and you'd be able to control them by using Echo. And, that's very interesting. It also has a built-in speaker, so you can, just as you would with an Echo, say, what time is it? What's the weather like? I don't know how good the speaker will be. I imagine most people will be using it with a stereo system. You'll have your surround sound system, so you can pipe the speaker through this, the little speaker in the Cube. Instead of using that, you pipe that into your stereo system. I think this is going to be a very interesting product. I ordered it right away because for 2 days they offered it for, I think, $90 to Prime members. It's now up to $120. Supports Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, HBO, Showtime. Although that will be dependent on whether your cable company allows them. You have to go through your cable company for HBO and Showtime. Sling, which is nice. Stars. I would love to see it support YouTube TV. I imagine it will at some point. It does support YouTube.com, but YouTube TV is Google's version of, over-the-top live TV service, a cable service in effect, much like Sling TV or Sony's PlayStation Vue. And I think it's a good one, and I would love to have an interface to that. It might be enough for me to kill my cable subscription. What do you want to know about it?
Well, I heard it might be beneficial.
Yeah.
Excuse me, for the visually impaired.
I never thought of that, but absolutely, because you don't have to figure out how to use a remote. You can just say, you'll have to pre-program it so that it understands that if you want to watch Sunday Night Football, that you have to turn on the satellite dish, you have to turn on the receiver, you have to go to channel 7, all of that stuff. But once you've programmed that, then you can just say, Echo, watch Sunday Night Football. That would be huge. Plus, I really like Echo's music capabilities. So I'm pretty sure I looked at this, that it has optical audio out of it. So you could hook it up to good speakers. That would make a big difference. So this is, I think this is Amazon turning up the volume, if you will, and making a play for this. It does support HDR. It does support Atmos. And that's interesting because Apple was able on Monday to say, hey, now we've upgraded the Apple TV to be the only streaming device to support Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision HDR. That didn't last very long. Here comes Amazon and said, we're going to do it too. The only thing it doesn't do that you might want, if you buy music or TV or movies on Apple's iTunes system, then it might be a little less desirable. Although one of the things I do like is that movies anyway on iTunes are supported by Movies Anywhere, which is the old Disney site that lets you use then your YouTube or Amazon Prime or other systems to play back movies you bought through Apple. So that actually might solve that problem. It does support PlayStation's Vue. It supports Hulu. It supports Sling TV. I think this is going to be a pretty compelling product. It's not cheap. It's a lot more than a comparable Roku. It's even more than an Apple TV, which one wouldn't think. It doesn't have, as far as I can tell, Dolby Vision. It's HDR10. But for most people, that's HDR enough. It'd be nice if it had Dolby Vision as well. But it does support Atmos. It's going to be an interesting device. Yeah, I'll let you know. I ordered one, and I'll be one of the first to get it because Amazon Prime people had an early window, and I'll let you know.
Well, because that I'm blind, excuse me, HDR doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. But you still watch TV.
I consider it no different than reading a book or listening to the radio.
Are there TV services with descriptive service on them so that they describe the scene? Does anybody do that? Because, that would be really nice. I feel like I've seen, maybe it's Amazon Prime or maybe it's Netflix. I feel like I've seen descriptive service somewhere. And that's nice because they could, they basically in voice while the movie's going on, they'll in between dialogue, they'll say, he's sitting down at the table. His daughter is across from him. That kind of thing, which would make it, I would imagine, even better. So, well, good. I thank you for your call and I thank you for your question because it reminded me, I hadn't talked about it yet, but the idea of completely hands-free TV would be very nice. Remains to be seen how difficult this is to program. It's kind of like Logitech's device. Logitech has something very similar that does this. Descriptive audio. That's right. That's what it's called. Thank you, Mike B. On the line, Kwame, Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Kwame.
How you doing, Uncle Leo? How's it going?
It's going well, nephew Kwame.
Good. That's what your boy, old doctor calls you.
He
Uncle
does.
Leo.
Old doctor always calls me Uncle Leo. Yeah.
How's he been?
He's
I've heard him on the Tech TV lately.
We're gonna get him on soon. I think he's booked. He's wonderful. He's still floating from his Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl. He's still walking on air. Great.
That's where I'm from, Philadelphia.
Oh, you're a Philly boy too. I thought I detected a little Philly in there.
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, Leo, I'm running Windows 10, and I have 3 displays in my showroom. And the laptop is one display. The desktop monitor is the second display in Windows. But I'm trying to maybe have a third display with the TV, my Vizio TV, right now shared with the desktop monitor. So it's important that the customers are not seeing what the.
Oh yeah, you're getting a mirroring instead of extended monitor, huh?
And it's running extending the displays, but.
Hold on a second. I got to take a break, but hold on a second. I think I might be able to help you, but we're going to take a break. Our local station's going to news at the top of the hour. More of your calls still to come. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. So you got it working with extended.
Yes.
Okay. So that's what you wanted. What else do you need?
Well, see, the problem is I'm only getting. I have the laptop, I had the desktop, and I had the TV. The TV is being shown by the laptop. I'm sorry, by the desktop, and I don't want that.
Wait a minute. Nice. You have more than one computer, or just one? It's just the laptop, right?
Just the laptop.
Okay,
yes.
So when you say desktop, you mean the desktop display?
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
So you go in the display control panel, and you can rearrange them so that you get what you want in each display.
It only detects 2 displays. I'm running the SIG 4-port splitter.
Oh, that's why a splitter is not going to. Yeah. So really, there are a couple of things here. Windows will do it, but you have to have a laptop that can display 3 monitors. That really is dependent on the video card and its capabilities. Okay. And then you don't want to use a splitter because it's not going to see all 3 monitors. The laptop needs to see all 3 monitors for you to be able to correctly distribute the content to the monitor you want it to appear on. The splitter's confusing it because those 2 monitors look like one monitor, I think, to the laptop. So you want to
exactly.
Yeah. What kind of splitter is it?
It's a SIG SIG 4K by 2K HDMI 4-port splitter.
Yeah. So what I think that's doing, I mean, you could do it if it were splitting the data. But what it's doing really is it's saying, oh, you want one HDMI visible on 2 different screens. That's what it's doing. So it's just the wrong device. You probably don't have enough ports on your laptop to drive all 3 monitors. I take it that's why you're using the splitter?
Correct.
Yeah. So you need not a HDMI splitter because that SIG is designed to take one HDMI signal, say from a Blu-ray player, and play it on 2 different TVs. And so from the point of view of your computer, there's just one TV. What you need is something that will. What do you have on the laptop? You have HDMI out, just one thing, or do you have?
I just have one HDMI out.
And you don't have anything like mini display port or something like that? Just the one thing out?
No.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a Asus laptop, couple 3 years old.
So there are definitely ways to do this. It may be a limitation of the video card. The fact that they only give you one external port on this means they don't expect you to drive more than 2 monitors at a time. So what we want to do is get a 3rd monitor. A couple of ways to do this. There are monitors that will run off USB. And I wouldn't put the video on it, the movie display, but if you want to show sales information or something, that would be fine. Something that doesn't have to be a super fast refresh rate would be fine. Yeah. So there are a lot of, so if you look for USB monitors, that will work on that laptop. You'll plug it into a USB port instead of the HDMI port. So you put the TV on the HDMI port.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a USB port, and that will look to that Windows machine like you have 3 different monitors, which is what you want.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is that the only solution?
That's one way to do it. That's one way to do it. There are chat rooms giving me another way to do it, which is from Diamond Multimedia, diamondmm.com. It is, let me see. No, that's not. Okay, the link that you gave me is not going to be the right solution. That's I don't know why he put it up in the chat room. What you want is another video card, in effect. So there would, in theory, be external video cards. I think the USB monitor is the cheapest way to do it. They're not that expensive. Okay. Actually, Father Robert had a good one that he showed on the new screensavers just the other day. Let me just see if I can figure out what that is. Asus makes one, a USB 15-inch. How big do you want that other non-TV monitor, external monitor to be? Does it matter?
What is it? Not really. Maybe at least 20.
You'd like it to be pretty big then. Okay. AOC's been making these for years. See how big AOC will go. There may be a limit on how big it can go because it's all being driven by the USB port. They make a 17-inch. That's probably as big as you can go. Although the limit, let me see if I can find one that's a little bit bigger.
I'm surprised it's this difficult to do what I'm trying.
Well, it's a limitation of the laptop. And this is really, it goes to the video card in the laptop, which is, if you probably don't have what we call discrete video. You probably don't have an NVIDIA card in there or something like that. You're probably just running the motherboard video, and it's just a limitation of the motherboard video, or they just never assumed you'd want to run more than one adapter. You could buy, Amazon sells for $40 a USB 3 to HDMI adapter. That's not the monitor. It would work with your monitor. The biggest support is 2048 by 1152. That probably would work all right. That's $50, so you could continue to use the monitor you're using, but instead of that splitter, you'd use this pluggable USB 3 to VGA. You have USB 3 on that laptop?
Yes.
Okay, because you need the speed.
Right. Okay. All right, I think that's it then.
All right.
Amazon. Hey, Leo, I'm coming out for the wearable technology event.
Oh, fun.
Out there in San Francisco. I have a piece of furniture. I'm working on furniture that I want to convert into an exercise apparatus, and I'm working on trying to develop fabric sensor technology that will track and monitor the user's exercises on our mobile phone, web application, so on and so forth. That's why I'm coming out, and hopefully later during the week I'll come up to your mothership and see you.
Kwame, I'd love to meet you.
It's going to be July 11th and 12th. Will you be in town?
Yep.
Awesome. Hopefully we can make it up there. And in the meantime, thanks for your help, and continue with your great show and service.
Thank you, Kwame. And we'll put a number of links in the show notes, techguylabs.com, to devices that you could use to do this.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah, Diamond does make a USB to Ultra HD. That's cool. That's nice. Up to 4K resolution. That's awesome. That's pretty sweet. So, yeah, we'll put that. Thank you, Scooter. I'll put that in the show notes. Well, hey. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Oh, yeah, we're talking tech. Computers, the internet. Pretty soon I'm going to have to cut computers out of this speech. Computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, voice assistants, augmented reality. I mean, it's all computers, but I think it's just a matter of time before you don't really have a discrete computer on your desktop, right? It's all on the edge. It's all in your little devices, in your pocket, on your person, in your phone, in your doorbell. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. We do talk about that and all the changing world around us, the technology world. A lot of disappointment. I've kind of had to go through the 7 stages of grief, anger, acceptance, denial, all of those. I think it's the wrong order, but I had to go through it when Apple on Monday did not announce new laptops, did not announce new iPads, did not announce new iPhones, had no new hardware at all, merely at its Worldwide Developer Conference, merely talked about the next version of its operating systems for Macintosh, iOS, TVs, and watches. That's it. That's all they did. I had to go through a little grief, a little bit of, how dare you, Apple? But then, when I started to look at what they had actually announced, I got a little more excited. For one thing, they actually announced some updates to the Macintosh operating system that are pretty impressive. They haven't really messed with, when you use a Macintosh, the main thing you're using is called the Finder. In Windows, they call it the Explorer. It's the interface to files, to programs, to your screen. It's the Finder. And they haven't really done much to the Finder in more than maybe 2 decades. It's been a while. The Finder has been, pretty static. And so for the first time in a long time, Apple announced, we're going to announce a new Finder look and feel, a new theme called Dark Mode, which photographers and videographers will love. Instead of white, it'll be kind of gray, and that's really makes it better for looking at pictures and looking at video. That's good. And it's easier on the eyes than a bright white screen. And they also announced that Finder itself is going to get new capabilities. You'll be able to do a little bit of photo editing just by looking at a picture. This is to me, very exciting for a couple of reasons. One, it shows that Apple hasn't completely given up on Macintosh. They're still no hardware updates, but at least they're making some operating system updates. And the other is it's a little closer to kind of the original dream of computing. In the early days of computing, computer scientists didn't really like the idea that in order to work on a file, you'd had to launch an application. It's something they call modal, and they don't like going into modes. You're going into word processing mode now, or you're going into spreadsheet mode or video game mode. In many cases, it would be more natural and perhaps even more powerful if we could just work on documents directly. The operating system could call on services from a word processor, a spreadsheet, or a photo editor. It could use those, but you wouldn't have to launch anything. You just say, it's called document-centric computing. Here's my document. It's a photo. I want to cut out the red eye. I just do it without having to open anything. Now, you are probably opening something, but you don't need to know about it. You don't need to go into photo editing mode. You just, hey, here's the thing I want to do. I want to modify the text in this file. You just start typing. So Apple's starting to move in that direction. It's very interesting. Microsoft tried with Windows. They had a big project to do this, and it flopped. It was called Longhorn. Apple themselves tried this several times. They had an operating system called Pink that was going to be document-centric. So it's kind of interesting to see them finally getting around to this on the Finder. That's good. They also announced some significant improvements to iOS that I think might bridge the gap. For a while, I feel like iOS hasn't kept up with Android, that a lot of the advances and innovation was happening on the Android side. Not anymore. iOS is doing, as Android will be doing, some health and wellness initiatives so that you know how much time you've spent on Twitter and Instagram, and you could even say, make sure I don't spend more than 2 hours a day on Instagram, and things like that. That's great. It's going to hide notifications when you're in Do Not Disturb mode. You know, those notifications really grab you, right? If you still get notifications, even though you're not getting ringing and chiming and vibrating, if you can see on the screen, oh, Amazon's having a deal on the Fire TV, that's going to pull you in. That's why they use notifications. So Android and iOS both are going to hide notifications as another way of not disturbing you. I like that. But the thing that's most interesting to me, and really most powerful to me, the most powerful announcement they made, is they're going to add the capability to automate workflow on the iPhone. You know, when I say it like that, it sounds painful. But really what happened is, and this is something Apple's never really done before, they're going to use Siri as the interface for this. They're going to let application developers hook into Siri, so Siri will get new capabilities just when you install a new app on your phone. You install a restaurant reservation app, now you'll be able to ask Siri to make a restaurant reservation for you. That's cool. Siri will also notice what you're doing and allow you to make shortcuts. They call them Siri shortcuts that combine a variety of actions into one that you can call up with Siri. This is pretty exciting. This is a very powerful feature that even Android doesn't have yet. I feel like Apple's announcements, once I got over the lack of hardware, new hardware, Apple did announce some very exciting stuff. On the Apple Watch, they announced a feature that many will find incredibly useful, others will find incredibly annoying. Do you remember the old Nextel phones? Sprint bought them and pretty much put this out of business, but they were walkie-talkies as well as smartphones. Actually, they were dumb phones. They weren't even smartphones, where you'd push to talk. So you'd have to set it up with a couple of people. You couldn't do it with everybody, but let's say you set this up with your wife or your husband. You press the button on the phone, and it goes, honey, don't forget to bring home bread, okay? And then your husband could push the button. Okay, I'll be home in an hour. This was great. Couples love this. People use it on work sites. It was a great way to stay in touch without making a phone call. You just press a button to talk to the people who are most important to you or you communicate with most. It was extremely annoying for anybody around those people because of the and I don't know if you remember this, but you never wanted to be near a guy with a Nextel phone. You just didn't. It was so annoying because it was piercing. It was loud noise. So Apple's adding this to the Apple Watch. You'll have a big button on the Apple Watch. You'll press it. It's not in real time. It's not a walkie-talkie exactly. You press it, say something, release it. It will be sent almost instantaneously to that person. They'll get a little notification. They press it, they listen, and then they can respond. So it's not quite a conversation. It's close. I think that's going to be really useful and simultaneously incredibly annoying. But there are people who will go, oh, yes, finally, I get my Nextel phone back. I get push to talk on the Apple Watch. They're also, speaking of annoying, adding competition to the Apple Watch so that you can say, I bet I can ride more bicycle miles this week than you. You're on! And then you can compete against one another. That'll be annoying, too. I never win those competitions. So I haven't mentioned what Apple talked about this week. I thought I'd take a little time and do that. We'll get back to the phones in just a second. 8888 Ask Leo. Answer questions, comments, suggestions. What are your thoughts? You want push to talk on your Apple Watch? Or is that going to be incredibly annoying? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More of your calls right after this. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. You want to get away? All right. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. And on the line from Carlsbad, California, Ron. Hey, Ron.
Leo.
Thanks for hanging on.
A pleasure and an honor to talk to you.
Well, I feel the same way talking to you.
So one of the things that I always say to my wife, and she always bristles when I do.
Oh, I have a list of those.
but you'd think in 2018, so I'll finish the sentence. You'd think in 2018, you'd be able to get decent Wi-Fi speed.
You'd think.
Right?
You'd think. It's actually getting worse.
Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons Wi-Fi is getting worse is we're just using it more.
Yeah.
Everything uses Wi-Fi. Our house is full of devices using Wi-Fi. I have well over 50, if I look at my Wi-Fi access point, well over 50 devices connected to it. Computers, phones, doorbells. I have an oven connected to the Wi-Fi. I have a sous vide cooker connected to the Wi-Fi. I've got a robotic vacuum connected to the Wi-Fi. And so it's not that Wi-Fi isn't working as well. It is working better. We're challenging it more. Not to mention, neighbors have Wi-Fi. They have their 50 devices. If you could see Wi-Fi flying through the air, it would be cray-cray. So what is your Wi-Fi woe?
Yeah, my specific issue is that we're in a one-story. I have my provider starts with an A. I won't complete it, but my provider starts with an A. I have a laptop in a different room from the hub, but the hub is on the same floor. You just go down one little corridor and take a left, go down another corridor, and there's my laptop. I have an extender at the junction of those two things. And so all of that stuff, I've changed things out and had the provider come out a couple of different times. But what happens periodically is the Wi-Fi speed, whatever speed test I'm using, drops to less than 1 megabit.
Yikes.
Yeah. And so what happens, what I have to do there is I have to get into disable and enable the Wi-Fi through network connections. So
and does that fix it?
And if I do that, sometimes once, sometimes twice, it will fix it, yes. But then maybe in 15 minutes, it'll drop again down to 1. So the Wi-Fi speed, if I can just finish, the Wi-Fi speed in the room isn't awful. It's 20 to 30. I'm supposed to be getting 70, but it's maybe 30 in the room if I do the test on my phone. But then again, when I'm on the laptop, it'll drop down to 1, and I'll have to disable and enable. So I'm thinking it's the laptop.
That's interesting because the phone doesn't show the same slowdown, huh?
Right. It does not.
And is it UVerse that you're using, or is it regular AT&T DSL service?
Regular AT&T DSL.
Okay. So one of the problems people have with Uverse is that they're watching TV on the same data channel that they're using for Wi-Fi. And so when you start watching TV on Uverse, it can slow down your Wi-Fi dramatically. But that's not the problem here. DSL, and are you using the Wi-Fi router that AT&T provided, or are you using your own?
Yeah, I'm using their router.
Yeah.
And I
bet you that's part of the problem, to be honest. These companies provide their own, you need a DSL modem, of course, or a cable modem if you're on cable. But they also often build into that a Wi-Fi router. And it's it's not the best. I don't know is it Action Tech? I can't remember who AT&T uses. But these aren't the best. They buy them in bulk. They want them to be as cheap as possible. They charge you a monthly rental fee. So it's a nice profit center for them.
But again, the fact that I can get decent speed on my phone when I, change it to Wi-Fi only, right next to the laptop, but the laptop will be, like I say, it'll drop down to less than 1.
Well, I mean, you're right. It's a hard thing to diagnose because there's a lot of different factors, and it could be the laptop. The fact that you turn off, when you say you turn off networking, do you turn off Wi-Fi on the laptop? What do you do that fixes it?
I go into the network connections, and I disable and then enable the Wi-Fi, that particular Wi-Fi, through the laptop.
Whose extender did you buy?
Yeah, well, I bought theirs. I bought something.
No, you need to. That's good.
Yeah.
You generally, with extenders, you want to match the brand of the access point.
Yeah, and I did that, and I think I have it in a good place. But again, I'm not dissatisfied. Even though it's 20 or 30 meg, I should be getting more. But the problem is when I drop down to 1, all of a sudden I can't do anything. I can't print because my print is on Wi-Fi. I can't do anything. And so
how old is the laptop?
About a year.
Oh, that shouldn't be it then.
And it's a Dell XPS, so it's a pretty high end.
I mean, it's conceivable that the Wi-Fi adapter in the laptop has problems. I don't necessarily think that's the case, even though you're giving the evidence that, well, my phone's recording full speed. Your phone's in a different position. The speed tests, sometimes aren't as reliable as we would like. It may be that if you had a better Wi-Fi signal, the laptop would be just fine.
Oh.
It's hard for me to, I don't want you to go out and buy all new router. I think that probably that would fix it. But if it is the laptop and you buy a brand new router and you still have the same problem, then I'm going to feel bad. So it's just difficult I guess you could go use try the laptop at an open Wi-Fi, go to a Starbucks or somewhere and see if you get slow down after you use it for a while. See if you can make it happen anywhere but in that particular place.
That's a good point.
I want to eliminate the laptop because I think, truthfully, the best thing you could do, and everybody should do this, stop using the AT&T provided Wi-Fi. Buy your own access point. I would say in your house, a good choice would be the Netgear Orbi, which is the fastest device out there. And you use it. You'll tell the AT&T router, don't do anything. Bridge, it's called. Don't do DHCP. You let the Orbi do it, and then the Orbi comes with an extender. So you replace the extender you're using. You'll put that Orbi extender somewhere. They help you position it with their app. And I bet you'll get much better results. But first, let's eliminate the laptop as a possibility by going around trying other people's Wi-Fi. Borrow some Wi-Fi for the neighbor. If it acts normally in other situations, I think getting a stronger signal from your Wi-Fi access point will make a big difference. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. There is an article that somebody in the chat room has put up. You're still on, right? I hear somebody in.
Yeah, Ron. Yes, I'm still on.
Yeah, good. Let me look at this. You can if you search the internet for problems, you can always find them. But somebody's found an article at Dell.com. Wi-Fi issues. XPS 13. You said you had.
15. I think it is.
All right. With killer Wi-Fi card. namely very slow internet speeds at times and regular cutouts. That sounds like this is...
And I do have killer, so that's
true. So actually, it looks like this might be an issue with the killer. Uninstall the driver, try the new driver. I'll tell you what, this is a thread from February regarding an XPS 139370, but it is the killer Wi-Fi card. And it sounds like a similar problem. Apparently the killer cards are not so good.
Yeah, I did go into a lot of different chat rooms. I didn't find that particular thread, but I found a bunch. And then I called Dell, and this it really aggravates me because I called Dell. Oh, I'm sorry, you're out of warranty, so we're gonna have to charge you $100 or $200. I says, you just point me to a direction, point me to some place where I can do some research on my own, because I don't want to end up spending money.
Well, one cheap thing you could do, you can buy a USB Wi-Fi adapter. They're not expensive, $30, $35. That will, you disable the killer Wi-Fi and you use the USB adapter and see if that's better. If it's a signal issue, it won't be any better. Actually, it might be because it's external to the laptop and so forth. That might be another way that you can inexpensively try this. But I do see these problems with the killer wireless adapter. Dell does sell Intel as well, and even Dell says, yeah, the killers aren't so great. Unfortunately, on some of these XPSs, I suspect yours, the Wi-Fi chip is on the motherboard, so it's not replaceable.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, the best you can do is disable it and use a wireless Wi-Fi adapter. You might try that just to see if it solves the problem.
But that would be USB, you're saying, right?
Yeah, which is plenty fast enough.
Yeah, it's just I only have 2 USB ports, and I'm using one.
Well, you could treat it as a diagnostic. The good news is they're cheap. If you can figure out, in some cases, the killer is a module that can be replaced with an Intel module. In some cases, with some of these Dells, it looks like it's part of the motherboard, which means it would not be replaceable. So if you could figure that out based on your model number, if that Wi-Fi module is replaceable, that would be another choice, is to replace it with an Intel module that's a better module.
Okay.
So I'll put in the show notes, I'll put a link to this Dell community thread because it does seem to discuss symptoms exactly as you describe. And apparently the killer Wi-Fi is not the greatest Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I was kind of going down that path. I was, because I'd had AT&T come out probably 3 times, and they...
Yeah, and I don't want you to spend $300 on a new router if you don't need one.
Yeah.
Single story, it's not a really challenging environment, it doesn't sound like, so, yeah.
No, and it's only, I don't know, it's maybe 20 or 30 feet away.
Yeah. Okay, so this does, maybe it is the card. If you're that close, maybe it is the card itself, yeah.
But I'm going to do what you suggested, and I think the easy thing for me is probably just to go in a room, which I haven't done. But
try it. See. Yeah, if you pick it up and go next to the router, and it's still doing that, then it's definitely the Wi-Fi card.
Yeah, of course, it's like going to the dentist or the doctor's office.
I know, and it's going to all be better. Hey, I got to run. Thank you. So I spent a little more time talking to our caller about his Wi-Fi woes, and it is the case. He had a Dell XPS 15 laptop, about a year old, and I was looking on the Dell support forums, and a lot of people are complaining about the Wi-Fi cards Dell's used in some of their laptops from that vintage. The name of the Wi-Fi card is Killer. Not such a good name. You may also get an Intel card, and the Intel cards, I think, are more reliable. In some cases, you could swap out the killer module for an Intel module and see if that fixes it. But apparently, I'm reading a thread on the Dell community forum that describes exactly the symptoms our caller was having, that he'd be fine, puttering along, and then all of a sudden, it would just drop to nothing. He disables networking, the Wi-Fi networking, turns it back on again. It's back to good. probably be a good idea when it gets to that 1 megabit, that really unusably slow speed, take the laptop and go closer to the Wi-Fi router and see if that fixes it. If it does, then it maybe isn't the card or maybe isn't the hardware, it's just a connectivity issue. This is why it's so hard to fix Wi-Fi problems, because so many things can affect it. For a while, people were buying routers with 5, 6 antennas and dual band and special power boosting transmitters. These are legal, but they worked great. They made your Wi-Fi fantastic, but they killed everybody else's Wi-Fi in the neighborhood. They just ate up all the spectrum, and no one else could use Wi-Fi. I don't think that's been solved, but I don't see that problem as much as I used to. But that's an example of how would you even know that that's happening? Your neighbor got a new router, and suddenly you can't use your Wi-Fi. Be hard to detect. Let's go to Modesto, California. Jose is on the line. Hi, Jose.
Hello, Leo.
Welcome.
Yeah, I just have I want to take a leap of faith with one of your sponsors, the Epson EcoTank.
Oh, good. I hope it's not too big a leap of faith. What do you want to use it for?
Well, okay, currently I have a previous model, not EcoTank, but and I want to know if this EcoTanks have the same issue of the ink drying up and cutting and not able to print.
Yeah, this is, historically, inkjet printers have this problem if you don't use them enough. If you only you print a page or two a month, inkjet printers are kind of terrible choice because the ink dries on the head and then you have to do a nozzle cleaning routine, which uses up a ton of ink to start using it again. I asked the Epson folks about this. They said, with the EcoTank, we have a new coating on our print heads that eliminates this problem. So,
cool.
My experience has been, now see, the problem is the EcoTanks we have, I print more often. So I don't know if for sure if this works. I'd love to hear from people listening if it's worked for them if they're using an EcoTank printer. But Epson, I asked them specifically about this problem, and they said, yeah, we know about this problem, and that's why on the EcoTanks we coat the print heads so that they are not susceptible. In general, I still stand by my recommendation. If you're not, how often are you going to print?
A few times a week and everything.
Yeah, that's right on the edge. If you print it every day, inkjet's great. If you're going to do photo printing, there's no question inkjet's great. But if you are just doing a few, I have a printer at home that I only print maybe a couple of times a month. I print tickets mostly. Like nowadays, you want to go to the movies, you have to print a ticket at home. That's mostly what I print. And I had problems with my old inkjet because it would just get clogged up. And I finally just said, all right, I'm going to buy a laser printer because those can sit and print once in a while and don't have that same problem. And so that's probably, if you're very light duty, that's probably the way I'd go, is with a laser. But if you print more than a few times a week, an inkjet's a great choice. And nothing does color better and nothing does photos better than an inkjet.
Okay, I see. And I do a recommendation for a caller from yesterday.
Sure, yeah. I'd like to hear it.
Yeah. The caller was, I think he wanted to wipe his phone, but he wanted to concern about his Google authentication, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Google has a way to get some one-time use codes before he could wipe his phone that he could use and then reformat his phone and everything.
Yeah, he had Google Authenticator. He was afraid if he got a new phone or wiped his old phone that he'd have to set Authenticator up completely. I know what you're talking about with those one-time codes, but they don't replace the Authenticator. They are backup passwords. If you have an authenticator, if you're using Authenticator for two-factor, where, it gives you a 6-digit number that changes every 30 seconds, if you don't have a way of keeping that secret key, that's what the Authenticator is using as a secret key. If you don't have a way of copying that down, you're out of luck. I don't think Google gives you that secret key a second time. I think if you say, I need to reset up my two-factor, I lost my Authenticator, they'll give you a new key. and that means you kind of have to start over again. That's why I recommended Authy, A-U-T-H-Y. It's an authenticator that you log into. It's free, but you log into it, and it keeps your secret keys encrypted, but it keeps them for you so you can use multiple phones. It's the only solution I've found, because I move to a new phone every few months, sometimes more often than that. So I don't, okay, I'll have him look at that, though, but I appreciate that, Jose, but I'm not sure if those codes are the same as the authenticator codes. Somebody in the chat room saying LastPass's authenticator lets you back up to Google Drive. Same idea. If you back them up and you can restore them, that's awesome. I see no reason not to use Authy. I really like Authy, and it's free. So generally, I think that solves many problems. Nathan in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Nathan, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hey.
Hey, question for you. A couple weeks ago, I heard you talking about a budget Android phone. Was it maybe the Moto Z?
Well, the Moto Z Play, which is due out any day now, somebody had asked me about that. I wouldn't call it their budget phone. It's a little more expensive. But the Moto G6 is a very good, inexpensive, $200 Android phone that I quite like.
As far as if I'm looking to switch my 14-year-old son from an iPhone 6s Plus to an Android, what would you recommend that's comparable to that, not super costly, though?
Well, what's your budget?
I'd like to spend no more than $250.
Oh, yeah, easily. A G6 is about $200.
Okay.
And I think it's a great phone. No problem with it at all. They keep it up to date. They keep the Android security patches on it, which is very important. It's got a good camera. I know that's important to your son. I think it's a very good phone. They have three models: the G6, the G6 Play, and the G6 Plus. The G6 Play is the cheapest. It's well under $200. So if budget's a real concern, that's the way to go. The regular G6 is about $200, and for another $50 more, you can get the G6 Plus. It's, a little, has a little bigger display, a few things like that. But I think for a kid, the other thing to look at is buying a used phone. You'll save money that way as well. Companies like Gazelle, a sponsor of ours, Gazelle.com, sell gently used phones, mostly from people trading up. That would be a good choice for a kid. Yeah, I have kids, and they go through phones like candy. They break them, in a heartbeat. So a good case is a great idea. And yeah, I think it's a good idea not to spend too much. If you want to get them a new one, definitely the G6. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 88 Ask Leo. Chat room kind of got me in a bad way here. They said, what is going on with Google? The Google Doodles, they've jumped the shark. They've gone off the deep end. Today's Google Doodle is about lawn gnomes. So now I had to go there, and I guess it's a lawn gnome catapult, a trebuchet. You fire lawn gnomes. Whoa. Yeah, I guess I didn't do such a good job. Oh, man. All right, don't play that game. Listen to the show. You can play that game. The show's almost over. You play that game after the show's over. Jeff in Los Angeles is next. Hi, Jeff. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo.
How are you today, sir?
Good. How are you, kind sir?
I am very well. What can I do for you?
So I call myself a small streamer on Twitch.
A little mini streamer.
Yeah, I've yet to get my affiliate status. I can't get the views.
What do you stream? What are you streaming?
Right now I'm playing Destiny 2 on Xbox.
Nice. So you're playing. This is, by the way, it's amazing how this has taken off, and Twitch is the best example of it. Although, Amazon bought Twitch, and then along comes caffeine and a lot of other people trying to duplicate this, Microsoft's Mix. The idea is people play games. They use software usually. Are you using OBS?
Yeah, I'm trying to. That's part of my question.
Yeah, you use OBS so that you can stick yourself in the game. You've got a chat room. And there's actually people making a living doing this because the chat room can give you money. Tends to be attractive young women, but
donations.
Yeah. And it is competitive. It's just like saying I want to be a YouTube star these days. It's there's a lot of people trying to do this, and you got to have something. You got to have a hook. That's the word. Whether it's a skimpy outfit or clever jokes.
Yeah, and that's part of the competition is very steep, especially, with the rise of Fortnite and everybody's playing that. And I don't like that game. So,
well, Destiny 2 is a great game. I like Destiny 2. But I think people don't... Do they watch... Actually, I don't know so much about the Twitch culture. Do they watch because of the game? Or do they watch because you're a great performer? I guess League of Legends, which was for years dominant, that's people watch because they wanted to learn how to play League of Legends better.
Yeah, that consistently stays in the top 3 of games that are... see, right now it's usually Fortnite, Overwatch, and League of Legends that are usually the top 3 at any given time.
Yeah, Fortnite's really come on strong.
Yeah. But my problem is my current PC isn't strong enough to stream. It can't push the graphics. And I'm looking around for laptops and everything. And, the competition is thick. So I want to be able to stand out, and I've got a background in broadcasting, so I've got a lot of creative ideas.
Oh, there you go. That'll help you. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to do cut-ins, live interviews.
Nice.
Graphics heavy, like pop-ups like you see on... Basically, I want to have my Twitch channel almost like it's a network, a cable network, where it has goofy pop-ups and...
Isn't this awesome?
Replays.
Isn't this awesome? I mean, you could even do this. Twitch charges you nothing for the streaming. You just, you get to have basically your own TV station.
Yep. You just follow their rules, and you can pretty much turn it into your own network.
So we stream on Twitch. It's not a very good stream, but we stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/twit. What's your stream?
Mine's Asylum 247.
Asylum 247. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I would imagine that there's got to be some way to promote this outside of Twitch because you want to drive traffic. I don't know what people do.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about marketing. It's, but let's help you with the hardware anyway, because you're right. If it looks good, it's going to be, you probably want it to look as good as it can before you promote it. So that when you don't want to, people are only going to give you one shot. So you want to make sure that
right now, I'm just streaming because Xbox gives you the ability to stream straight from your console to Twitch. So I'm basically just streaming from Xbox, and I'm using my Kinect to use as a cam, but my lighting in my house isn't very good, so I'm actually using Funko Pops as my avatars for my cam.
Oh, that's cool.
And I interchange them when Infinity War came out, I put up a bunch of different Marvel Avengers pops up, and when Deadpool came out, I started using different Deadpool pops. So I'm kind of something different.
Yeah. So of course, if you think about it, in order to do this, you have to have a machine heavy duty enough to play a game, and Destiny 2 has high requirements. And at the
I'm
same
streaming from a console. I mean, I'm going to be playing from the console, so I need to capture it from my console and run it through a PC to operate OBS.
Right.
But I want to be graphics heavy. But when I look at online, it says, for streaming strength, you want to look at your CPU.
Right.
But I also want it to be graphics heavy, so I'm thinking I need a lot of GPU as well. So
there's two things going on. There's the composition, putting the picture together, overlays, all of that stuff. And then there's encoding. So you put a whole stream together. You take the stream from the Xbox. That's good because that's doing the hard work of the game. You pump that into your PC. You're doing the composition by overlaying your video on top of it, adding all of those weird little features and doohickeys that you want to add. The composition is done in the GPU on OBS. The next step, though, is squeezing it and sending it up the stream, encoding, they call it, so that it can be viewed by other people. That's done by the CPU. So the answer to your question is you need a lot of horsepower on both. You need a very good graphics processor. The better the video card, the more you'll be able to do with your image and the pop-ups you want to do and all that stuff. And, of course, in order to do this in a timely fashion, you want a CPU, an Intel processor, that can compress fast. Now, my guess is if you really wanted to do the best job of compression, you wouldn't look at the Intel Core i7 chips. Those are their fastest chips out there. I would look at a Xeon. Those are really designed for multi-threaded, heavy-duty compression. So you're going to get an NVIDIA video card, a good video card, as good as you can afford, and you're going to get a processor. Probably, I mean, I would look at a Xeon. They can get expensive. There are, on the OBS project website, there are a lot of forum posts about what kind of hardware to use and, you know, and so forth.
Yeah.
But you know, I think the key thing to understand is that you need both a good CPU for encoding and a good GPU for composition. It'll use both. Yeah. Now, what I don't know, and I guess this would be worth a little research, is how many threads, or if OBS even uses threading. My guess is it would, in which case having a multi-core configuration. Intel now is selling hexa-core processors for laptops, but of course, if you get a Xeon, I have a 10-core Xeon, that would be great for compression, because as long as OBS uses all those cores, you should be able to crunch those videos faster than anybody. Faster you can make them, for sure. So that's the other thing. You've got to be careful about overbuying, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm on a tight budget. I'm trying to validate the investment from my wife because I'm not able to work, so I have to validate each investment into the stream. So
I would look on the OBS site to see what they say about Threadripper. That's the less expensive but very multi-core processor from AMD, and I have a feeling a Threadripper actually might be an economical way to get the horsepower you need, and then still get a good video card. If you're going to get an AMD card, AMD processor, you might want to get an AMD video card as well. Hey, good luck. Have fun. I'll be watching. Thanks to Michael Cozio, our musical director. Great music today, Michael. Thank you. To Kim Schaffer for answering the phones. Most of all, thanks to you for joining me. I'm Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Have a great Geek Week. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.